Oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. Look, I'm not one to pretend I'm something that I'm not. I am not an expert in any capacity to most things. I know this because the universe has shown me repeatedly over the years. Once, a long time ago, my then friend, now wife, was going to work and she wanted to change rooms in the house she rented. So while she was gone, I took apart her entire bed and moved it to the other room. I reassembled it and I felt pretty proud of myself. When she returned, I said, "Behold, look upon what I have done. I'm so thoughtful." And she said, "What are all those bolts all over the floor in the other room?" I had reassembled her bed using none of them. I had somehow just stacked a bed. I know. Same wonderful person wanted a hot tub, and this was not long ago. I said, "I can take care of a hot tub. I grew up with an in ground pool." You'll know anyone that grew up with an in ground pool because they always say in ground pool. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. We had an in ground pool. A year passes, and my wife is like, "The water's really making my skin itch." And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. I'm a hot tub master. I check the levels. Everything seems fine. But I call the service. They come and drain it and refill it, as you should do from time to time with a hot tub. Of course, a master knows that. And the chlorine to water ratio should be around 8%. Ours, 80%. Like I was planning to dissolve bodies in there. What's my point? I am no expert on anime. I'm here to learn, to appreciate, to listen, and to share and hope that maybe others will want to check out the films we cover. So let's get right to this episode with a fantastic returning guest as we ponder Angel's Egg.
Innocence can be hell. Innocence can be hell. Can be hell. Innocence can be hell. Innocence can be hell.
Greetings and salutations. This is VHS, and I'm your host, Dirk Marshall. We continue season 16 with crossing off movies from my episode wish list with my guest, writer, director, animator, Chris Boylan. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what have you been up to since last we talked? You just sent me two things that I watched that looked incredible.
So those are promos for my novel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the plan is to animate a little piece of each story. So it's a cyberpunk space opera anthology. It's something essentially that I've been working on since I was like a 20 something year old,
Yeah.
like 1999, 2000, when I just turned 20 years old. It started out as like a comic book project that my friends and I were working on. And then as the time went on, it just sort of became this repository for all these space opera sci-fi ideas that I had.
Mm-hmm.
One day I just decided like there's no way, it's too big for me to produce by myself, but I can write a book and I can have each one of these little stories be a little snippet of the universe that it all takes place in.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's a really smart thing to do with, like, not extra ideas, but ideas that could be in the same world.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and there was a lot of pruning too. Like there were definitely a lot of stories that didn't fit. So
Mhm.
it was about like, okay, well this one fits, this one doesn't fit, taking them all, then organizing them together and then seeing how so they all take place across different parts of space and time.
Okay.
So some of them may take place before, some of them may take place after, reference events that happened before, decades, maybe even hundreds of years. But basically, I tried to keep them all like intertwined. And also, I tried to lay the stories out in a way that where a concept's introduced maybe in one story, and then we actually go into detail in the next story about that actual concept. So,
Well, I think that sounds way more interesting than just, like, say, taking Seventh Samurai and putting it in space and making it
right.
a two-part film on Netflix. I'm not naming names, but I'm just, that's interesting.
Yes, definitely no slow motion scenes in my book.
Speaking of motion, though, the last time you were on, I was talking about something that you would let me see where there was a person with a gun and there was this whole sight, awesome movement of, I mean, I can't say camera because it's animation, or would you say camera? Regardless, what is that and anything to update us on that?
So that's still currently in progress. Essentially, we had to make a decision because the book was coming out to market the book.
Got it.
And so the clips that I showed you earlier, the marketing clips for the book actually took precedence over that.
Okay.
But that's still something I'm working on. We have to talk about like the order of the projects after I'm done with the whole book marketing. Like, what are we gonna do? Because I wanna work on something really big for my next project. So is that gonna be the short film? Do we keep the short film in reserve? Do we do several short films and then put them together into
Mm-hmm.
one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Moving into like 2025 and stuff like that. That's what we're gonna take a hard look at that.
And is there a place where people could see these cryptic things I've referenced?
Right now, the video that you saw is
Yeah.
up on my Patreon.
Great. Okay.
That's Patreon. That's 07 Animation on Patreon.
Great.
That also gives like all behind the scenes looks for like anything that I'm working on right now. So that's where I will be posting animatics, concept art, stuff like that, rather than put it out publicly. I'll probably keep that for the Patreon for sneak peeks.
Okay. And the book is not out or is out?
The book is out right now, so you can actually go to Amazon right now and you can order yourself a paperback or an ebook version. For people who like to read ebooks, that's great. I recommend the paperback. There's a lot of really neat stuff we did with graphic design and page formatting to create a sort of immersive experience in the book. So it's not just about reading words on a page. It's also about how I try to kind of think of it like each story is like a file
Mm-hmm.
in like a catalog. And so the way that the pages look and the way that they're laid out, it's almost like you're browsing a file system.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I buy this on Amazon, could I then track you down to have you sign it for me?
Heck yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll throw in some hot sauce for that.
Oh, my wife would be ecstatic.
Okay, great. All right, we already covered where people can find you. You're on YouTube as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm still on YouTube. I'm still putting videos out periodically there. We're doing promos for the book as well. So when I can, I record basically like this is what I was thinking when I wrote this story. So I'm planning 8 of those videos,
Oh,
and
cool.
then each video culminates with one of the clips like what you saw today.
Okay.
And those clips again are excerpts from the story, just short, like 10 to 12-second bits, and they each correspond to like writing in the book. So if you read the first story, the clip I showed you where the guy, it like zooms out from his eye,
Yeah, yeah.
that actually corresponds to like the opening words in the first story, basically talking
Okay.
about these 9 blue-eyed people just standing on the hull of a spaceship while explosions go
Yeah.
off around them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's 07 Animation on YouTube.
07 Animation, yeah.
Cool.
Everything is unified under 07 Animation or 07 Anime. I can't remember which one I had to do anime because I ran out of characters.
Okay.
But if you search 07 Animation, it'll come up now for sure on Google.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
The film that brings us together for this episode is Angel's Egg from 1985. What's your history with this movie?
So this movie was directed by Mamoru Oshii, who is a hero of mine. To say he changed my life is kind of an understatement. He directed Ghost in the Shell, which most people will know, the 1995 animated film.
Yeah.
And that kind of like, it completely changed the course of my life. Like I saw that and I was like, well, that's definitely what I need to be doing. So this is, I think, his first film. And a few years back, I was going through his whole catalog and rewatching all of his movies, and I found out that he had directed this. I was like, well, I definitely have to watch this. And then when I found out that the concept art was done by Yoshitaka Amano, who, if you don't know, designed all the title screens for the Final Fantasy games,
Mhm.
and also did the character designs for Vampire Hunter D, which is another like fairly famous anime work. You know, the two of them together is just an irresistible combination. So that's how I came across this piece, and I wasn't disappointed, but I was definitely maybe confused a little bit upon first watching, and I'm sure
Yes.
we'll get into that. But the second watching, I was very much like in tune with what was going on, I think.
Yeah, I just saw this for this episode. I've seen it 3 times now. All 3 times, I took a nap in the middle of it. There's something about this movie that I find deeply comforting and
Yeah.
cozy, and I just let it go. I was like, you know what? I'll come back to it. I didn't watch it anytime All three times I took a break and just took a little sleep, but not because I was bored and not because I wasn't interested. And yeah, we're gonna talk about a lot of things you just mentioned.
It's a very Portland movie. It's a very like
Yeah.
just cozy up on the
Uh-huh.
couch with a cup of coffee and just let the rain fall,
Yes.
like
And it's something that like you could, I think, in the wrong hands feel outside of it. I think even if you're confused, you don't feel like it's done in a way to be like obtuse or you know
yes.
what I mean? It's
Yeah.
there's something about it that is still inviting in some way. The time of this recording, it's very hard to see, but G Kids is doing a 4K remastering. It'll soon play in select theaters and be released on Blu-ray. How did you see it?
I was able to obtain a copy and I saw it that way.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
did as well. I went on YouTube, I bought a copy, and then I did not receive that copy. I received Macross. What is it? Do you
Do you
remember
remember
love?
Love?
And I
Yeah.
don't know what this is. I've never seen
Oh,
this.
okay.
I've heard of this because of I've been in shops where there was toys and figures. I am, in case you're, if you're first time listening to this podcast, I do not know a lot about anime. I've started sort of dipping into it and reading about it through Patrick Macise's books and through our conversations with Chris here. So I am not the expert. So if you're coming here to expect me to know all of these things, I do not know them. I am willing to listen and learn, but I don't know what Macross Do You Remember Love is.
Macross is a gigantic franchise at
Okay.
this point. It's had trouble, we'll do a quick aside here. It's
Yeah.
had trouble getting traction in the West because of some weird licensing issues that kind of made it. I don't know if you've ever heard of Robotech.
Yeah, see
Do you
that's
remember
the thing. Is
Yeah,
Robotech, then I saw this and I'm like, well this just looks like Robotech the way
right.
that like someone would see GoBots and thinks it's Transformers maybe, like
Yeah.
it's just they're different things. I know now, but at the time I was like, no, it's not for me.
Yeah, no, Robotech is actually Macross,
What?
but it's not Macross at the same
Whoa.
time. Like, so it's like, you know how like Voltron was
Yes.
made using Japanese anime?
Uh,
So Robotech was made using Macross, and for a decent chunk of the series, it's the same story.
okay.
But then they started kind of splicing together other Macross series into it. And so that's where you have this weird sort of like the rights are tied up and there's Robotech in the United States, but Robotech is this like giant Hydra amalgamation of all of the Macross properties.
Oh.
So we've never actually had a legitimate Macross release in the US, but then they all just kind of Harmony Gold and whoever owns the rights to Macross in Japan, they kind of like sorted out their differences because they're like, there's money to be made. So
Yeah.
let's make the money. And so now I think we're getting proper releases of Super Dimension Fortress Macross. And what you have is actually the movie of Super Dimension Fortress Macross. And my personal hypothesis, and I don't know if this is substantiated or not, but my personal hypothesis is because there's such a media aspect, you'll see when you watch the movie, but there's
Mhm.
a sort of tying together of pop culture and this military type stuff to the point where there's, it's a pop singer who's there and she's like singing songs while the guy's like fighting to cheer her boyfriend on kind of thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that Do You Remember Love is actually the in-universe movie adaptation of like the real events of the series kind of thing.
What?
So it's like Band of Brothers
Yeah.
is an adaptation of what really happened, like a dramatization of things that happened to those men in World War II.
Yeah.
I think Do You Remember Love is that same sort of like it's a dramatization of what were the real events in Super Dimension Fortress Macross, right? So it's like if we were gonna go, if we had lived through Super Dimension Fortress Macross and finally come back to Earth, we would go to the movie to see like our story up on the big screen kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my personal hypothesis. I'm pretty sure that's right, but
Yeah.
I could also be completely full of it. I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna watch it probably
Yeah,
tonight,
please do. Yeah.
but I've been busy studying the film we're about to discuss.
Yeah.
So, as always, I encourage you to support your local video stores like Movie Madness right here in Portland, Oregon. This film was written and directed by, you said,
Mamoru Oshii.
there it is, Ghost in the Shell. Jinro the Wolf Brigade is one that I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
that I thought was awesome. And
It's
then
fantastic.
I've never heard anyone say this, but Pat Labor?
Yeah, Pat Labor.
Pat
Yeah.
Labor.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that, but it popped up a number of times.
Pat Labor is great. There's a bunch of different Pat Labor media. I would recommend the TV show and
Okay.
the first couple of movies.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically the idea is that in the future, these things called labors are used for like construction, and they're just robots. They're just robot suits. Like instead of using a tractor, you
Yeah.
would get into a robot suit with tractor hands because that's awesome.
Yeah, of course.
And so because of that, as labors get adopted wider into society, they start to be used to commit crimes.
Naturally.
And so there is the need for this patrol labor, pato labor
Okay, I'm in.
department. So it's
I'm
a
in.
special police department of police
You,
robots that fights other. Yeah.
sign me up for that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, like if you don't want to watch a whole TV show, just start with the first movie
I
because
will.
it's pretty great.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned because for a long time I think there was a stigma, at least in some social circles, with anime, and that it was
Hmm.
like this nerdy thing, and it was very, I don't know if I'm not going to say it wasn't cool, but I just was like, I think I know what that is, foolishly.
Yeah.
And then I would see some things, but it was usually due to the graphic nature of violence in it or something, and I'm like, cool, I like that. And then
Yeah.
as I've gotten older, I think I've gotten more appreciative of the artwork and the design of the different things that I've seen. And I've also discovered that so many movies I loved were based on manga and
Yeah.
anime stuff, and that the things that I love that are so weird and fantastical in these movies comes from these artists and these animators. And so now at this point in my life, I'm like, I'm ready to like dive into some stuff and see some things that aren't just, like this movie that's not, a demon that's like ripping people apart or
Right.
whatever, where I'm like, obviously I think that's awesome, but like this is a very different thing. And part of the reason it's so amazing is this artistic design to everything, that you'll sit and watch hair flow in water and be like, yeah, this is rad.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just like, why? What is this? How come? What are they tuned into over there
Yeah.
that it's just like cinema?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Especially the shots in this where there's just like the matte painting moving behind, and
Yeah.
it should be not interesting, and yet it's completely engrossing.
I think I wrote art exclamation point about 6 times in my
Yes.
notes. I was just
Yes.
like, art.
Yeah. Oh man. Written and directed we covered, so it's made in collaboration with.
Yoshitaka Amano.
There
Yeah,
it
he
is.
he ended up being the character designer, and then they brought him on to do backgrounds because they liked his art so much. And
Yes.
I think he was doing like image boards to like sell the movie, and then that was enough for Mamoru Oshii-san to say, "All right, it's time for you to be our background artist too." Like, and it's just the backgrounds are
Ah, it's
it's
so
amazing.
good. He was responsible, as you said, for Vampire Hunter D designs, Battle
Hmm.
of the Planets, and Gotcha Man were the other titles
Yeah.
that I was aware of. Our voice of the girl is Meiko Hayoto. I think I'm saying that okay.
Hmm.
This was her first role, but she went on to do 46 other TV episodes, working with like everything from Sailor Moon to
Oh, awesome.
Macross Plus. Um, the boy is Jinpachi Nizu, who has 70 acting credits, including Kurosawa's Ran, Pat Labor, and Angel Gut 6. So,
That sounds like, I mean, that sounds like our next show.
yeah. Oh, no. I don't know if we can do the Angel Gut series, but you never know, really. The synopsis: a young girl has a large egg and meets a boy. I mean, there's some other
That's
stuff, but.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's press play on Angel's Egg. We start off with hands, and they turn and fingers bend, and then we hear a squish sound. I love this opening shot. It's like you're looking down at hands, and they're
Hmm.
showing them turn. And from if anyone has drawn and tried to draw hands, you know that that's a challenge. And then to have them
Yeah.
actually turn and not look silly, it's really cool. It's a cool
Yeah.
opening.
And then they do they like age and then like crack
I thought it was
kind
the
of?
squishing of an egg, but it could be the cracking. I think you
Ooh.
could be right that it's
Mm.
that they are aging, but they're definitely changing. The light on them is changing, so maybe they're aging.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
Maybe
And
it's a little bit of both.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to a blue chicken and an egg sitting on a stem or a stalk of some sort with clouds moving in the background, and you're like,
Yes.
oh, okay.
There it is.
Well,
It's an egg, transparent egg with a bird in it.
surely this will be talked about for the rest of the film. We hear a wailing choir in the back, and then a heartbeat. Then it cuts to a strange man with a weapon on his shoulder who stands on an enormous checkerboard next to a wild, pointy wall. Now, this, I would go, anime. Got it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the weapon is. I don't know who this person is. This is what I would think of, not what's about to happen, which is Suddenly, a giant spiky blue eye-like sphere lowers to the sky. It's awesome looking. It's got kind of
Yeah.
weird disco vibes. I don't know. It's very cool.
Yeah. It's like a stained glass kind
Yeah.
of thing going on.
Yeah, I read a review that had a name for it, but I was like, that's not said in the movie. I think you're just
No.
making it up.
Yeah.
Its surface is 1,000 statues that look like they're praying. It's,
Yes. Yeah. And they have some of them have like little halos on their heads, stuff like that.
Yeah, like they're angels. And
Yeah.
this is a very allegoric film. I know
Mhm.
that's a word that gets thrown a lot around on my podcast by Ryan from New World Pictures. Hey, Ryan. But this was definitely an allegoric work. Steam starts shooting out, and it lands on the checkerboard, I think. But it's like
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
it's actually sinking into the ocean, right?
I
Or does
think
it
so.
land on the checkerboard and spoiler alert, then the water fills up? Because it lifts out of the water at the end.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for
I
Angel's Egg,
I
1985.
I think it's supposed to be like prehistory or
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
I
We,
don't know. I mean, like,
we don't have to
what
figure
is
it
this?
out.
This movie doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
but it means everything at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody asked like a David Lynch to do a children's cartoon. He would be like, no problem. There's a
Yeah.
chicken in a shell. You'd be like, oh God, we made a mistake.
Here we go.
The stranger watches, and next we see a lady sleeping, and she awakens, rubs her eyes, gathers her blanket, ascends some red stairs, and behind her she's left a giant egg.
Yeah.
This is the angel's egg, everybody. I think. We hear a shrill sound and looks over at the bay while her hair blows in the breeze. And this is one of those things like we were talking about earlier where just the design of the hair.
So gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
and this is 1985 animation. This isn't, this is labor intensive. Holy smokes. All the
There's a
different
lot of
strands.
lines in that hair. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's just yeah.
The movement of everything is beautiful. There's not corners cut in some of the animated sequences of this film. I'm like, this is not just a like He-Man Masters of the Universe situation. Like,
Yeah, they're not reusing anything in this
No.
movie.
Yeah, and for like a first film, what a wild swing. Because I know that this got him sort of labeled as someone who makes movies that are hard to follow.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to make movies for a while after this.
Yeah, which is weird, I think, for the 80s.
Well, in the end, everybody wants to make money, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
right. That's true. When we talk about art, there is money involved, unfortunately, in movies as an art form. Then we get our title card, Angel's Egg. She returns to the bed and wraps the egg up, ties it to her belly, and just takes off running. It's the fluidity of the movement here as she rolls it in the cloth. There's certain things in this film, the way that it's animated, that I just go, oh, I don't understand drawing. I don't know how you did that for me to believe it's happening spatially. It's just 1985, people.
Very, very carefully. That's how they did that.
Yes.
Very carefully.
She wanders a dark alien landscape, and next she stops at a pond and fills a glass vessel, and she drinks out of it. It's gorgeous. The water in the vessel, the depth of, it's...
Yeah. And water is a constant theme in this movie. It's just like water, water, water. That was the second most noted in it was like art, exclamation point, and then water. More water,
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
We see a feather float by and then some leaves, and oh my gosh, she submerges herself in water. We see her surrounded by like seaweed that's slowly tussling in the water. It's
Undulating,
just it's so great. Suddenly we hear a shrill sound again, and she's standing in the dark. We see more streams and more grass blowing in the wind, and then she walks a tiny path over a canal, very high up over this canal, which I was like, that doesn't seem necessary, but all of it has a point. And she reaches a small town where she fills her water jug. We next see her from multiple POV shots. This might be one of my favorite sequences in the film. Our POV is from inside of various dark buildings looking at her. So
Yeah,
different
and she's just running.
angles
Yeah.
and like a basement one, and it's just there's something about it that I just was like, it's not.
This eerie abandoned city, and she's
Yeah.
just kind of like wandering around, filling up her water jug, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It feels like a game that would pop up now that people would be like, "Are you playing this new game where you go around
yeah,
filling up the water jug
yeah.
in the town, the ghost town?" I'd be like,
Have
"No,
you guys played Angel's Egg yet?
yeah, it's
It's amazing.
so great. It's
Game of the year.
8 hours, completely silent. Everyone takes a nap sometime during it." Uh,
Yeah, seriously.
she looks over her shoulder, and a squeaky giant red machine-like tank rolls by,
Yes.
which I don't know what this is.
No, it's never
It's never referenced.
referenced again. Okay, so the tanks arrive
Yeah.
and they bring with them the man.
Yes.
And so what I took this to mean was destroyer.
Okay. Yeah.
I took this to mean the man is arriving with the destroyer,
Mm-hmm.
or he is the destroyer, or there's some sort of a destructive nature about this man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got from it, because it's literally just a line of tanks.
Yeah. And he
Like
just
there's
steps
like
off
20
it.
tanks that go by,
Yeah.
and then they stop, and then the guy's on there,
Yeah.
right? And he hops off.
Yeah.
So that's what I took it to mean. War.
It's really interesting how they bring these two characters together.
Right.
So she then heads into a destroyed shop to loot food and find another glass vessel to fill up at a fountain.
Right.
But it's cracked, so she can't use that one. But
Mhm.
this whole sequence at the fountain is gorgeous too. It's just like could be just a throwaway scene, but there's something about how they put it all together that just feels purposeful. And I just sit there silently watching it, like just like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm totally engrossed in her filling this jug of water, and then being
Yeah.
like, oh, can't use this one.
I thought it was significant that she dumped the wine out
Oh yeah, yeah,
and then filled it with water,
mm-hmm.
or tried to, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like there was an interesting sort of idea there, maybe about temptation or purity,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
purity of the water versus the wine, and she just looks at it and dumps it right out.
Yep. We hear a big bell sound. And suddenly, many blue mysterious figures start running around. Oh no, they're just statues at this point. Nothing's moving yet.
Yes, but she gets scared of them.
Yes, and then she snacks on her jam and drinks her water in a very cute little scene.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved it. She sits by a pond on some stairs, and then we see the mysterious stranger sitting there as well.
Mhm.
He has her egg, and he says, "Keep precious things inside you," and hands it back to her. So she wraps it up in her gown again, and then he says, "What do you think is in that egg?" And she says, "I can't tell you." And she says, "I don't know you." And he's like, "You've got to break an egg to know what's inside."
Yeah,
And she runs off, and he slowly trails behind her.
that's right.
That's our two
Yeah.
characters. That's how they interact in the first, like, it's like so minimal. First of
Yeah.
all, what a great job to get as a voice actor. You have like 6 lines.
You get that done in like an hour.
Yeah, right.
You get paid for the whole day.
Yeah, I love this first grouping of the two of them. She takes off, he does follow, and eventually men run past, and she mentions these fishermen. And she says
Mhm.
even though their fish are not anywhere, they still chase after them, and we see these giant fish shadows
Yes.
in the streets at first, and then along the sides of buildings as these men hurl these like hooked spears with ropes attached, trying to bring down these giant fish, which there's just the shadows.
Yes. I still don't really understand what this scene is about.
No, I have
Yeah,
no idea. It looks so cool though, the way
it's
the
beautiful.
spears hitting and penetrating through windows
Hmm.
and I don't know what this says about like the desperation of these men. This like because they also look like the statues, and it's like, are they ghosts of this world where they're forever hunting these big fish, or because there's no water, but there's water coming. It's I don't know. There's like all these different
Yeah,
opportunities. It's one of the things I find that really satisfying about this film is the conversations we could have could be hours long.
yeah, endless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we aren't given an answer. I've looked, there aren't any, other
no.
than speculation over the director's interest in the Bible.
Yeah, he likes to read the Bible.
And he's not Christian, he says in multiple interviews, but
Right.
he likes to read the Bible. And I love stuff like that, where people are like, I like reading this material. I'm not assigning myself to any sort of demographic, but I'm going to pull stuff from this
Yeah.
and see where that goes. And it's really fascinating.
Yeah, he actually did a directing masterclass where he talks about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. It's on a now defunct website, but I was lucky enough to have purchased it. Basically, he says like if you want to learn about archetypes and you want to learn about storytelling,
Hmm.
he's like read the Bible. Read the Bible, read the Quran, read all the old holy books because it's all there. That's what he said. He's like it's all there.
Ah,
Tales
okay.
of kings, tales of peasants. It's all there for you to completely learn storytelling. So that's I think what he finds them interesting both as books of philosophy
Hmm.
and as books that contain a wealth of story information.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's also something that people pull a lot of like symbolism from things, and
Yeah,
artwork is a great place to exercise that kind of
yeah.
fantastic. Well, these fishermen are through playing games. A game. Chris, are you ready to play a game?
Let's play a game.
All right. This is a very simple one called Name the Premise, which is weird to call it that because I'm going to tell you the premise and then we'll just see if you know the name of what these animated things are.
Okay. All right.
Number one, a girl struggles at a pig themed maid cafe called Oinky Doink.
I do not know this.
Yeah, it's something called Akiba Maid War.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oinky doink. Interesting.
And I love that it's a pig themed cafe, but it's also a maid cafe. It's got to be where they dress up like maids, but it's
Like
also
pigmates.
pig themed.
Okay. All right. There's probably a pig pet too, like
Oh,
one
I'm
of the girls I
sure.
could see.
Yeah, Akiba Maid War. So everyone check that out.
Okay.
Number two, a dead boy is sent back to Earth to earn his wings. It's an animated TV show.
A dead boy is sent back to Earth to earn his wings. Is it anime?
It's not.
I should know this. I do not.
It's the Gary Coleman show. That's right. After
Well,
he
okay, I'm glad I don't know
he
this.
had an animated show in the end, and they decided to make him dead.
Oh
It's just
my
I
gosh,
love it. So it's
that's
so
crazy.
such a great angle in the 80s to be like, I don't know, maybe he's an angel that doesn't have wings. Great. No notes. Number three, a girl with mind powers is taken in by the mafia.
Oh man,
It's
I
not
don't
a
know this one
it's
either.
not a lot of information. You might not know any of these because of how obtuse they are. It is Hinamatsuri.
Hinamatsuri?
Yeah,
Oh, I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
yeah. I haven't either.
Interesting. So she's got mind powers and taking him. I mean, I can see why that would be attractive to the
Yeah,
mafia.
she has psychic mind powers, and the Japanese, the
Yeah.
Yakuza, bring her in.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, interesting. All right.
Yep. Number four, a vending machine fanatic is crushed by a vending machine, reborn as a vending machine.
Yes, okay, I do know this one, but what the hell is the title? Oh, it's like one of those stupid like reborn in another world as a vending machine or something like that.
It's actually
I mean, yeah, is
you
it?
you got it. It's reborn as a vending machine. I now wander the dungeon.
Yes, okay, yeah. This is like yeah. I joke about these silly isekai titles all the time.
Yeah.
It's like what was it? Another one's like saw him a spider, so what? Or
Yeah.
something like that. Like and that's the title of
There's
the
so
show.
many like that.
I'm just like, no, no, please. But apparently the vending machine one's actually kind of hilarious.
That's
So
what I hear.
yeah,
I just now discovered it, so I'll have to look up. Reborn as a vending machine, I now
reborn as
wander
a
the
vending machine.
dungeon. Number
So fun.
five, a man finds talking magical dancing shoes that he puts on his feet and fights crackheads.
This sounds like a live action.
Nope, it's animated. They're all animated.
Crackheads? I do not know.
Well, maybe they're, you know, just nefarious folks, but it's Hammerman. It's the cartoon that starred MC Hammer.
MC Hammer, stop.
He found magical talking dancing shoes that he puts his feet inside and then fights evil people.
Does he say hammer time when he fights them?
Probably.
He has to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop. Hammer time.
Number 6. Walrus taxi driver learns about the mysteries of Tokyo.
Oh, this one's new.
Yeah. Well, see, you know
I
stuff.
did not watch it. What?
Yeah. I said you're aware of these things. I was not.
Yeah, I saw the previews for this, but it didn't hook me, so I never watched it. So I don't know what it's called.
Odd Taxi.
Odd Taxi,
There
okay.
it is. Number 7. After breaking a Kappa statue, 3 boys become Kappas.
Oh man, it's like a fever dream. It's like this movie that we watched today. It's just like there an illusion in my
Oh,
brain.
right.
I don't know what
I
it's
love
called
that.
though.
Could you explain what a Kappa is?
A kappa is it's like almost like a Ninja Turtle. So it's like a turtle monster from like Japanese mythology, and they have these weird like hair like bowl haircuts, like shaved head nonsense going on, and like beaks and like the hair. They're very strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a great
Yeah.
one in the Yokai Monsters collection that Arrow put out. Has a really good Kappa in a couple of the films.
Yeah.
Okay, that one is called Sarazanmai. Sarazanmai.
Sara Zenmei.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So if anyone wants to see that happen. Number 8. A girl time travels with her leprechaun gopher.
No idea what this is.
Well, that's the Punky Brewster cartoon. You should have remembered that one.
I should remember that one. That's usually a channel flip to Thundercats for me
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
at that time. Yeah.
I just love that they're like, we need to give her a friend. Leprechaun's too easy. It's going to be a leprechaun gopher named Gomer. Okay, number 8.
Leprechaun Gophers sell toys, dude.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's right. Number 9. A princess is imprisoned, but she doesn't care because she just wants to sleep.
I had no idea.
It's called Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole series about
What?
this lady
That's
that's imprisoned, but
crazy.
she just wants to take the perfect nap. Okay.
That's hilarious. I mean, like, yeah, if you need to sleep, you might as well go get imprisoned by the demon castle guy.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It just sounds more like a B&B than a demon castle, but
I mean, maybe like she's got like a wicked stepmom or something that's like
Right.
always waking her up to like do dishes or something. So she's just like, I just want to get kidnapped by a demon king and be allowed to take a nap.
yeah, that could be it. I'm going to watch it. Sounds pretty good. Finally, number 10. Great racehorses of the past are reborn as horse girls.
Oh, I've seen clips from this
You've seen
one. I don't know what it's called.
It's
It's just one of those like meme things that just gets passed around Twitter.
yeah, it's Uma Masube.
Uma Musume. Oh yeah, so horse girls, literally.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Uma is horse and Musume is like maiden
Got it.
or sister. No, Musume is like maiden. Yeah, so it's like horse girls, basically.
Okay. Now that I know what this is, my daughter has one of these. Because when we go to like comic stores
That's
or
awesome.
like anime manga shops, she loves the statues of the cool girls with like wolf paws or like whatever. And she has one that
Oh.
the base is like a horseshoe. And I was like, that seems weird, but I didn't know what it was. And then I
Yeah.
heard about this and I'm like, oh, I just love that they worded as that they were great racehorses.
And now they're great racehorse girls.
Yes. They weren't just,
Awesome.
you guys, they're not just racehorses. These ones were really great.
Really, like worthy enough to be resurrected as like centaurs,
It's
basically.
so good. Okay. RoboCop. Did I catch you in time? Are you still there? Remember when Paul McCrane gets all melty from toxic waste and then splats on a car? Imagine that movie without that scene. Would it still be good? Okay, bad example, RoboCop rules, but his death adds flavor. And you know what else adds flavor? Marshall's hot sauce. You can wake up any boring meal with habanero carrot curry or serrano ginger lemongrass, just to name a few. These delicious and flavorful sauces will have you grinning bigger than Tarman in Return of the Living Dead. Marshall's hot sauce even has a new line of seasonings, including an incredible barbecue rub, where they soak dates in whiskey and then freeze dry them and powder them to add a little sweetness with no added sugar. There's also chicken marinade and even a volcano sparkle that'll make your body melt, just like in the movie Body Melt. The best part is you can enter VHUS Podcast at checkout for 20% off. So liven up those meals and your taste buds at marshallshotsauce.com and enter VHS Podcast for 20% off. And now, back to the show. Back in the movie, they pass through an abandoned church. Another great set piece of the film. All this stuff with the stained glass.
Mm-hmm.
It's really gorgeous. We get more
The
water.
rain inside, which is it actually raining?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. This is like about the part where I would fall asleep every time. And then restart.
And then the stained glass fish.
Yes. That's right. The fish motif returns.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The fish motif returns. And if you noticed, I don't know if you saw this, but the stained glass, when you see it from the outside, from the distance, it's an inverted coffin.
Oh, wow. I didn't even...
Yeah.
3 watches and I missed that.
Yeah. It's an inverted coffin shape, like the thin at the top and then the wide at the base.
See it now.
Yeah.
I was looking at the window's kind of broken and she's standing in it and the strange man is looking at her. So I was a little distracted by that. But
Yeah. Well, that I mean, the imagery, and then the fish are like swimming across the building when she's outside, and the guys are going crazy.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for like a spear to go through the window and hit her.
Yeah, I thought maybe it'll hit the egg or like you don't know what's gonna happen. But the fishermen do continue to try to spear the fish, and then the two just wander back into nature, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess they're done at the church. She says, "Please don't do anything to my egg," and they enter a building that looks like Geiger designed the inside of it.
Yes. Oh, by the way, he doesn't say anything. She says, "Promise not to do anything to the egg," and he just kind of like stares at her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, you're right. It did look like Geiger, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, what is this?
We talked about Peacock King and the artwork there's artwork in the film at the end of the live action movie that is totally like Geiger style, like
right.
Which I don't know because I'm not familiar with a lot of anime and manga. If there was a ton of that kind of design and things.
I think the sci-fi of that era was influencing anime major league.
Cool.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Mamoru Oshii saw Alien and was like, that needs to go in this.
Because it's sort of organic and like, it makes sense in the story, I suppose. He sees a drawing on the land and talks about a wild tree that grew from the earth and in it a giant bird inside of an egg. She sets her bottle along the wall and we see suddenly these vessels lining whatever this structure is that they're inside. It's super cool. And he's like, "You've been here a minute because there's a lot of these jugs in here."
Yeah. I got World Tree vibes from that tree carving, like the Yggdrasil, right? Up the wall, and his hand is like going up the wall, and he's like talking about the bird.
これと同じ木を見たことがあるよ。あれはいつのことだったのか。忘れてしまうほど遠い昔。音を立てて雲が流れてゆく空の下。真っ黒な地平線がそのまま盛り上がって生まれた大きな木。大地から生気を吸い上げて脈打つ枝を伸ばし何かを掴んでいた。卵の中の。
I mean, I sound redundant, but it's a really great sequence with the
It's a stunning film, honestly.
He says, "Is it still there dreaming?" He says, "What kind of dream does a bird have?" There's all this like speculation of like, what is reality? Is this real? Are we in the dream? And then she sets her bottle along the wall, and as he recites this Noah Bible sort of story.
我が作りし人を我が地の表より拭い去らん。人より獣、這う者、空の鳥に至るまで滅ぼさん。そは我これを作りしことを悔ゆればなり。今7日ありて我40日40夜地に雨を降らしめ我作りたるあらゆるものを地の表より拭い去らん。 かくて7日の後洪水地に臨めり。その日大和田の源皆破れ、天野と開けて雨40日40夜地に注ぎ、箱舟は水の表に漂えり、地に動く肉なるもの、鳥、家畜、獣、地に這うすべてのものおよび人、皆死ねり。その花に命の息の通うもの、すべての苦我にあるものは皆死ねり。ただ彼と共に箱舟にありし者のみ残れり。
It's the bulk of the text for the script for the movie is this diatribe, this monologue.
Yeah, where he just basically goes ahead and says the big climax of the Noah's Ark story.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, which is, I mean, like, well, that's the thing. At this point, they're inside this place. And I was like, did I see an ark before? And then I started to see, like, when they went into the place where they're in, the Giger place,
Yeah.
there's like bones everywhere, giant bones.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the world tree carved into the wall,
Mhm.
and then there's glasses everywhere. And you start to notice like fossils.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's talking about Noah's Ark, and I'm starting to make parallels to like evolution
Mhm.
and the Ark being like a symbol of DNA and evolution itself. The Ark is an allegory for DNA or the genetic information, because then
Yeah.
you got the world tree, which also could be that, the branches in the genetic families,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, it was really interesting for him to just go on this diatribe about Noah's Ark, and I'm just like, wait a minute. You know, things are starting to like click in my brain. I'm starting to make connections.
I was thinking, like, what they're inside of at this point of the film. Is it the giant thing that lowers out of the sky in the beginning of the
Mhm.
movie? Because is that the ark?
Right, right. But I don't think so, because there was a shot outside that looked like a boat with a bunch of like
Yeah,
planks
yeah.
coming off of it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, yeah, because you're right. It's like, is that giant ball like disco cathedral
Yeah.
thing? Is that the ark and it came down and it seeded the planet?
Yeah.
Or are they actually in a boat right now?
Right.
And they're in like the belly of the boat with all these fossils in it. Yeah, it's very trippy at this point, but it's trying to say something at this stage, I think.
Yeah. I think it's saying exactly what he wants to say, but
Yeah.
we're not supposed to know
Right.
necessarily, or we don't need to, is maybe the way I should word that. There's a lot of it. Is this a dream? Whose dream? It rains
Right.
there. It rains here. Is it still raining? We see that water levels have been rising as this story has been progressing. So now we see the town flooding at a rapid
Mhm.
pace, and then we see water has like swallowed the town.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up to find the eggshell has been shattered. And she
Yes.
screams.
Yes.
And I didn't realize the first time I was watching it, where you see him lift up this weapon thing and then plunge it down, that that's what he was doing. But when
Yes.
you see the eggshell, you see the cracks in the ground, the sheer force that he has broken this egg with.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, it says so much without showing you everything in the one scene.
Yeah. The lead up to that. So there's a couple things, right? So when they first show up in this H.R. Giger place and they start talking, and she's kind of opening up to him, and he does his big Noah's Ark
Hmm.
dissertation. And then she shows him, they go up a spiral staircase,
Hmm.
right? Which again is where I started to get the DNA,
Right.
the double helix thing, and all the fossils embedded in the walls. And she shows him this like angel skeleton that's like embedded in the wall.
Yeah.
And then she's like, this is the bird's egg. And she's talking about this angel, and he's like, it gets, his demeanor changes at that point, because he goes, I see, that's what I thought it was. And then they go to this scene where, you know, you see the water levels rising and all that stuff, and then it's just them where she's sleeping, and he's sitting there,
Yeah.
and there's a fire. And the
Oh,
scene goes
yeah.
on for about 3 minutes.
Yes, that's the next thing I had. But this scene you're talking about, where there's nothing moving in the scene but the
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the fire goes out,
Yeah.
and she rolls over and leaves the egg unguarded. And that's when
Yeah.
he gets up. And that's, I wrote my notes. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yep.
was like, oh, here's the dread. Here's that I didn't promise not to touch
Mhm.
this egg.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes it and he puts it on the ground. And you're right. Then he like methodically prepares his cross and he
Yeah.
picks it up and then slams it down and it fades to black.
Yeah.
You're just left to sit with that. And then she wakes up and finds you're right, that crack in the ground. And it's just such a beautiful
And it doesn't show us
sequence.
what was in the egg.
No.
Like it doesn't
No.
doesn't show us the gruesome aftermath. We get just what we get, and we know that it's been done. I can't believe I didn't mention that the guy carrying the weapon is shaped like a cross. That's the other thing. That's
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a gun. It's not a sword.
but it has one end that looks like it's a gun,
Yes.
but that's not how he uses it. He uses
Right.
it like a jackhammer or something.
Yeah, he just takes it and goes,
Slam.
yeah. I felt like maybe that could be almost like because okay, so when she's carrying the egg around, she's carrying it in her dress.
Yeah.
She's a little girl, but to me it felt almost like a loss of innocence because she's carrying it in her dress and she looks pregnant the entire movie,
Mm-hmm.
but she's a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she leaves the egg alone, when she leaves herself vulnerable to this man, he smashes her egg,
Mm-hmm.
but he uses a phallic implement to do it.
Right.
And so I was sort of getting like a loss of innocence, impregnation kind of vibe
Mhm.
about that, which leads us into the next scene where she finds the egg and starts screaming,
Yeah.
right?
I was also thinking, because I did not know about the angel that she's going to talk about later on in the movie, so I was taking it that she's the angel and she has this egg through a lot of it, and so I was like, okay, got it. So it's like a virgin with child type
Yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like I got this whole situation, and then when they're like, she's like, this is the angel, this is the angel's egg. I was like, hold on, okay, now I don't know what's happening.
Right.
And then the breaking of the egg, and then I was like, I didn't know. I felt betrayed for her, but I didn't know really why. I don't know what the stakes are.
Yeah.
I just know that this egg meant something to her.
Right.
It's just very, even from this point on with the rest of the film, like I'm like, well, that guy wasn't cool at all. But
No.
also
No, yeah.
what the rest of the film is that she runs out and falls into water. She kind of like almost she kisses like her reflection and then sinks down into the water in this amazing
Yes, beautiful.
sequence.
And she seems to age.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. But I also thought
Yeah.
that at a couple different times where I was like, oh, she's older now. And then I was like, oh, no, wait. I think maybe it was just the angle I was seeing her at that one point. But I love this part where she sinks, she
Mhm.
exhales, and a bunch of eggs rise to the surface of the water. And I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, what is this? And then I was like, is she the angel now? And this wasn't
Right.
about the other. It's just so incredible. Then the stranger sees many feathers fly through the air, and the giant ice ship rises out of the sea, and she and the egg are like a statue now. Is that what I was seeing?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I got from that. Oh my gosh, yeah. I actually clicked into that hard. The holiness of motherhood. That's what I wrote in my notes. Because she was giving birth to these eggs,
Yeah, okay.
whether it was meant that way or not. Like when she exhaled, all of these eggs came up, and then there were trees everywhere
Right.
with eggs
Yes.
on them, right? Like holding the eggs. And then, yeah, you're right. The giant disco ball cathedral comes out,
It's gone.
and she's in there as a statue
Yeah.
holding the egg and smiling. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, interesting. The what is it? The impurity of man versus the holiness of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's left behind and she ascends.
Yes.
Right. That's what I got from it. I mean, again, this is again, we could do dissertations on this.
Yeah,
whole
but that's
thing.
what I love. I love a sandbox for a movie. Because something can mean something to so many people and have so many
Right.
different interpretations, and everything we bring to a film comes with us into something. And yeah, I love what you said there. That is way deeper than just the disco ball with the lady on it.
Yeah. It's still a disco ball with a little lady statue on
It's
it.
true,
but
it
yeah.
is. If you want that, you can find that in this movie. But
Yeah.
if you want to try to stir around in the religious allegory, it's there, and
Mhm.
it's a pretty fun sandbox to play in. And then the movie ends.
Did you watch it zoom out all the way?
Oh yeah, it does zoom out.
It looks like a boat
Oh right.
flipped upside down,
Yeah,
which is like, okay.
Yeah.
So is that the arc then?
And it zooms out for a long time.
Yeah, it lets you sit with that. He's sitting on the shore, right? And the disco ball comes out and the wave hits him and kind of goes like almost up to his chest
Yes.
and then recedes. And as it recedes and it pulls out, the camera just starts pulling it up to the sky. And then it keeps switching because you can't zoom,
Yeah.
technology. You have to switch the cell. So it'll fade to another cell that's like wider.
Hmm.
And then it'll fade to another cell that's wider. And then finally you see that where they were the whole time is the underside of a giant boat.
Yeah.
And this whole city is just one part of this, just the underside of this giant boat. And you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
what the hell did I just watch?
It's not called Angel's Boat. So it's
It's
just
called
a
Angel's Egg. Yeah, that's right.
wild ending. Yeah, it's such a ballsy move to end something with this long, slow pull out and then just be like, that's it. Just mic
Yep,
drop. That's my movie. And
yep.
wow. Yeah, I'm glad we decided to talk about this because it is like there's something about even the soundtrack for it, which one of like the albums I put on if I'm on a plane and I want to go to sleep, or if I just am like I need to just drown out and chill, is Aphex Twin Selected Ambient Works 2. And there's something about the soundtrack that has that kind of ambient like comfort to me, this very
Hmm.
womb like kind of. And so when I talk about falling asleep, that's one of the main components is this repetitive like droning kind of things that I just go, yeah, this feels good.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of, you don't feel the stakes per se. You just know that she has this egg. You don't even really know of his ill intentions until that one reveal at the scene where he's like, that's what I thought. Just like, yeah, boom.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fascinating, fascinating film. I definitely disagree with people that, don't give it the merit that I think it deserves. I think the people working on it are just so talented.
Yeah. I think that this is an example of he had to evolve to be commercially viable.
Sure.
And so he had to adopt a more commercial tenor to his work where it was just like, it can't just be an ambient thought piece where the audience is sitting there going, whoa, what?
Yeah.
Um, but I think this is definitely like rewatching it. It's one of his best because it's the most pure.
Hmm.
Like you can tell, like there's a youthful energy
Yeah.
and an optimism to the filmmaking itself. He was just like, I'm gonna shoot my shot, baby. I'm gonna go for it. And he really put it all, like left nothing.
Nah.
He put it all out there, and I think it's great because of that. I think his other movies are fantastic, and I think that the evolution of his style. It's weird because it's like it's almost like you get the pinnacle of like just pure distilled Oshi,
Yeah.
and then you work your way back to that, right? Where like
Yeah.
his later movies start to get way more philosophical, way more like thought piecey, and where like he'll just have like characters quoting Nietzsche in like the middle of like just waxing philosophical about like artificial intelligence and
Hmm.
what it is to be a human, and to see like the purest version of that with like without any dialogue, and just to see him just flex. It's really interesting. It's definitely an interesting kind of full circle. If you appreciate Mamoru Oshii's work, I definitely recommend not skipping this one. Even if you go back, like watch his filmography and then go back and watch this,
Yeah.
like watch it from the beginning, watch his filmography, and then watch this one again because you'll get a lot more out of it when you see like what he's thinking about, what he's doing, and how he evolved as a filmmaker after this, right?
Yeah. I also think it's a great like if somebody thinks they know what anime is
Hmm.
in all its capabilities, this is a great example that you don't. Like I think that this is something that while yes, that's exactly what it is, I think it could open a lot of people's minds to being like, "Oh my gosh, like I love like, these art house movies." And it's like, "Well, you should watch Angel's Egg." Or
You
I
should.
like beautiful animation, but nothing that's like too robot-y, then you can watch Angel's Egg. And also it's so singular. I feel like I've never seen anything like this. Even like when you talk about things like Belladonna of Sadness and stuff,
Yeah,
it's like
I was gonna say.
it's not it's still not this. and
Right.
and I love what you said about like a singular director's work, because that's always stuff that I'm really drawn to, where I don't feel anyone else's hands in here being like, we got to change this, or let's cut this part, or what does it have to be a boat? Let's turn it upside the other way so they know it's Noah's Ark or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, it's very much his work, and you can see that. So when you watch the later stuff, you go, oh, he's doing the thing that he did in the beginning. Like,
Right.
but now he's doing it in this bigger scheme, and you get more robots or tanks or whatever those red things were that rolled through the town.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's explosions in his later work
Yeah, right.
and like fight scenes.
Yes. Yeah, it's great. Did these two ever work together again?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
I think they're.
No.
Are they both alive?
Yes.
That would be great. See, this is the thing that like billionaires waste all their money doing dumb stuff on the planet. I would fund things like that, like bring these
Yeah.
two back together now.
I'd be like, do something.
Yeah, here's money. Go do the
Play.
Yeah, give us whatever. I don't even care if it makes sense to me. Just go and have fun designing, because like just the artwork for the bootleg Blu-ray that I have, it just has this awesome, timeless quality to it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful illustration.
It's just gorgeous.
I cannot wait for that 4K. Like, I'm buying this on 4K
Oh,
when
same,
it comes out.
same.
It's like
You
we're
said
going to see in the theater.
Yeah.
I'm buying the Blu-ray.
yes. You said it to me, the release notification, and I was like, of course, because I just bought a very expensive.
Yeah.
But you know,
But you got Do You Remember Love out of the deal too.
that's true. It's a twofer in a way. You know,
Yeah.
I can't complain there because now I can watch that tonight.
And that is the polar opposite of what we just
Right. Right.
like. That's like you're gonna watch Top Gun now. You know, you just
Right.
finished watching 2001, and now you're gonna watch Highway
Okay.
to the. You know, that's what you're doing. That's
Okay.
what you're going for.
All right. I'm down for that. Breakneck change of pace. Fantastic. Well,
so good.
we did it again. I love that we took a break from my thirst for blood and violence and watched Angel's Egg, because I know the next time we chat, we'll probably be talking about something where people are decapitated.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get some violence back in this.
Yeah.
I need a nice juicy steak.
Yes. Well,
I just ate a salad, and now I need some red meat.
exactly. So, and there's a lot. There's a lot to choose from, and a lot for me to learn about in anime that does involve bloodshed.
Yeah.
So,
And put some hot sauce on it too.
yes, we definitely.
Some delicious carrot curry sauce.
There it is, habanero carrot curry. All right, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Angel's Egg is a fantastic movie.
There it is.
Go see it in 4K. Go buy the Blu-ray.
Mhm.
Support this work so that maybe somebody throws money at these two creators and they get to do something new.
Yeah, and I mean, if this has been, missing for so long to get remastered and released now in 4K, buy it, because then people will fund the restoration in 4K of another great lost film.
Yeah.
Because these things are tricky to find and are incredible pieces of art that just deserve to be brought back and showcased. One more time where people can find you, please.
You can find me everywhere at 07 Animation. So YouTube, Patreon, Twitter. What's the new one called? Kara.
Oh, yes, I just heard about this.
Yes, all the artists are jumping to Kara because Instagram is stealing our art. So
Perfect.
yeah.
So Cara,
So-
C-A-R-A. I have
CARA,
artist
yeah,
on there.
07 Animation. And you can buy Absolute Zero Rise of the Hyperspace Crusaders on Amazon now in paperback and digital.
There it is. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining me for this movie again. It's always a pleasure to get to talk about these anime with you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. As always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and this has been VHS.
You really want